Today, we're talking about best practices for receiving and responding to customer feedback and criticism in ways that demonstrate an understanding and some appreciation. And in our last Empathy Expansion Kit episode, we touched on this a bit, but we wanted to dive deeper because it's really hard to cover in just 10 minutes, some of the important areas here. Tullio, so this might be hard to do, but is it important for businesses to reframe feedback as a gift?
Yes, absolutely. There's some businesses that you're going to get, like we mentioned in the last episode, you're going to get positive and negative feedback depending on who you're dealing with. And especially high volume type of businesses. Let's just highlight one, for example, moving companies. If you've done any research on moving companies, the reviews are all over the place. There's not one single moving company that has all the top reviews. I mean, there's some that have higher reviews than others, but you'll find with every good review, there's a negative one, and the negative ones, if the feedback from the company is empathetic, they soften the whole problem. But if the feedback is defensive, then it just turns people away. I just went through this experience personally. And one of the moving companies, the feedback, like the people responded, they were defensive. And I was like, do I want to do business with a company that if I raise an issue, they just get defensive about it? Even if they're right, just having that attitude, I didn't feel comfortable with that. Like they don't understand me. This is so stressful, this whole process of moving. There's no empathy in the process that I'm going through. I know this is your business, but this is a big deal. You could be a little more human-like in your response, right? So, and then the company that had, we're so sorry this happened. Let us make it right. Here's what we're going to do. That felt more like, wow, these genuinely understand that things can go wrong, but they're going to try to make it simple and easy to solve it. So the way you respond to criticism, it can be a gift, the criticism. The way you respond can turn into a gift, or it can be a curse. The way you respond can be a curse. If you're defensive and have attitude, it's not going to work for you. But if you're humble and empathetic and you stay in this frame mind of connection, you're going to have a lot of success. And that's the key thing. It's not about being right. Even if the customer says something that's so out of left field that they're so wrong about it, and you know that they're wrong about it. It's not about being right. It's about maintaining connection. And that requires tremendous empathy and tremendous humility to be able to say, what's the higher purpose here? I want to maintain connection. And I'm also having other people watching how I maintain connection. So what I say and how I say it's going to either be a gift for other people to say, these guys are nice guys I want to do business with, or it's going to be a curse that's going to show my cards as just having an attitude, trying to be right and argumentative, even if I am right. And it's like being in a relationship with people in real life, right? We either strive for connection or strive to be right. And sometimes trying to be right ends up destroying a relationship. So it's the same principle, really.
So, this makes me think about how AI is coming online with some of these customer feedback loop, channels and things like that, and how AI is actually scoring higher than humans in a lot of areas here. And I think it's kind of what you hit on a little bit. It's these triggers, right? We're human. And there's really three key triggers here. So you've got this truth trigger, this first one. So it's when we believe the feedback is wrong or unfair, we're just, we're going to get defensive about it, right? So maybe that moving company was just getting defensive because it was either wrong or unfair. Whereas, something like AI would be a little bit more treating it as a gift in some way and thanking someone and expressing a little gratitude for the feedback, even though it's totally, not right. And it could go into the process of explaining that really well without being totally triggered. So there's this other trigger. It's the relationship trigger. So this is when we're affected by who's giving the feedback. So you'll see this in, maybe it's a client related business where it's just, people and people really well, or it could be your boss or employee, something like that. And there's all this built up maybe relationship and resentment or whatever in there. So we're going to be triggered sometimes because there's history involved in that. then there's this identity trigger, this third trigger. So that's when feedback threatens our sense of who we are. So like if someone, accuse you, Tullio, that's, you have no integrity, blah, 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 in whatever your moving company business. And you're very, centered on integrity. That's one of your key values. You're going to get defensive with that. And again, this is where AI sometimes is just going to handle it better. It's not going to come out swinging or punching or being defensive on it. And so I think on the human side of things, this is where we get into trouble in this area. We're not thinking of it as a gift. We're just, getting ready to go in the boxing match and trying to
exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head on AI. This is where the biggest opportunity and where the gift really comes to life is you can set it up and train it to, you can cut and paste a comment or criticism and say, I want to have an empathetic response to this. You can give it some input on the values you want to highlight, and it'll write it in such an eloquent way that will validate the concern, validate the end user. It's not about making them wrong, right? So you're not competing. You're just trying to get them over to your side. And then it subtly can plant the seed for how do we solve this? I'd like to suggest these 3 steps. We're going to contact you offline. Let's try to solve this. So it's if you find yourself, even as the owner of a company, if you find yourself getting triggered, then use the platforms that are available. Use AI, right? Because AI is not going to know whether you had a bad morning or a good morning. They're not going to know if someone made a comment that triggered some trauma that happened when you were 12. It doesn't have any of that history. And it doesn't feel anything that's been triggered based on some historical something that we need to heal, right? So it has the ability to stay neutral, and it has some nuances programmed on how to reply in a way that's empathetic. And half of the time when you read it, it's like, yeah, that's really the way I want to say it, but I don't feel like saying that right now. But that's the right way to say it. So use that, because you can actually create better connection by doing that. And people love a hero story, right? The person who's we watch these movies, the person falls and they go through these struggle and then they rise, right? That's kind of like the human hero story, the fall and the rise. So if you do it right, that comment makes you look like you fell, but you can rise by the way you handle it. And AI will play a big role in enabling that. So if you're in the kind of business that has a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism, a lot of reviews, use AI to respond to some of these things in a very empathetic way. It's going to elevate your business.
Well, it's a marketing opportunity, like you mentioned,
absolutely.
Like you're looking at the moving companies. So, and you're looking at these reviews. There's a stat by Bright Local says 82% of customers read online reviews for local businesses. So this is absolutely a marketing opportunity here. And if you screw that up, whoever's handling this, the marketing team is going to be like, great, thanks. Now we're, 3 stars or whatever. It's absolutely should be treated as kind of that marketing gift. Like, hey, let's really show what we can do here and what we're about, right? That's really, when it gets down to it, this is really an opportunity to increase your retention rates, increase your profitability, everything that marketing tries to do.
It's changing the relationship with criticism too. It's not, because often the way we respond, the sort of automatic response is, I'm not good enough, therefore someone's criticizing me. So it doesn't make you feel good. So now you're defensive because you don't want to feel like you're not good enough. It's kind of a thing, right? It's an epidemic, like this sense of not being good enough. It's a worldwide epidemic. So it triggers that in different ways. And so, but you can't leave room for that, in these scenarios, because if your attitude is, what can I learn from this? How can I repair this? How can I build connection from this? Then you actually can flip the switch, so to speak, in something that would have been a negative scenario and showcase yourself, being the better person, the taking the higher road. And people respond to that very positively, because we're humans, we're going to mess up. Not everything's going to go perfect, but how we handle ourselves makes the big difference. So it is absolutely a marketing and a sales opportunity. And the mindset is, oh, we have a bad review, we have to defend it because it's going to hurt our business. No, what's going to hurt your business is being defensive. What's going to help your business is using that as an opportunity to showcase that you care, that you're going to do something about it, and take notes. Don't just pay lip service to it. Go and make the changes necessary, and then come back and comment. We took this seriously in the past 6 months. These are some of the things we've implemented to change this, and go and be proactive about it. All that is an opportunity to enhance the brand, not diminish the brand.
Yeah, I like that idea, going back, down the line. Hey, here's several changes we made. If I'm reading that, I'm like, oh, wow, this company is really taking it seriously. And so if I do have a complaint or something in the future, they obviously are showing that they care about that. If you want to dive deeper, check out a good book. It's called Thanks for Feedback, Science and Art of Receiving Feedback Well. That's it for today's edition of our Empathy Expansion Kit. Tune in tomorrow for our Thursday guest appearance, and we will see you on the next Business Podcast.